Chip Kelly, round two at Oregon. Is it possible? Welcome into the voice of college football. We got Tony Siracusa on the line from Last Word on College Football. And Tony always has his ears to the ground trying to figure out who's next and where and how the dominoes will fall in what direction this time. Wow.
I try to keep up with you, Mark. I do try.
Oh, no, that's not the way that should have been stated, Tony. I'm trying to keep up with you. That's why I'm always calling you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us, because we'll get to the broader scope of what's happening across college football here in recent weeks. But let's delve deeper into the possibilities here. Chip Kelly's concluded an 8-4 regular season at UCLA, by far his best season at UCLA, but still, considering schedule, considering a number of other factors, it wasn't that unexpected or that he made some kind of major breakthrough. Okay, Mario Cristobal leaves Oregon to go back home to Miami, and the Oregon job is open. Chip Kelly, of course, is the most successful coach in the program's history, and there is smoke, and it's billowing higher and higher each day.
It is. Yeah, I think you and I talked about this probably about 3-4 weeks ago, and I said the only job that I would see Mario Cristobal leaving for is the Miami job. And then it opened, and lo and behold, there he goes. Chip Kelly to Oregon is baffling to me. Just the concept is baffling to me. One, and I don't mean this to be rude, I really don't, but why would Oregon want him? He's 18-25 in his 4 years at UCLA with a bowl game coming up. He is a shadow of the Chip Kelly that they knew of back in his days at Oregon. Look, I talked to David Shaw during the summer, during Pac-12 recruiting days, and guys like Shaw give Kelly a lot of credit for, as he called it, revolutionizing college football with what he did with the innovative offenses a decade ago. But you and I both know a decade in college football is a couple of lifetimes ago, and the game has changed. The defenses have changed. A lot of things have changed since then. And so it's not the same. I'm not convinced you can go up to Oregon and recreate what you did a decade ago. So there's that. There is the conundrum of his contract at UCLA. He's under a 5-year deal. He is, before all of the chaos of the last 3 or 4 weeks of coaches, signing, contracts that, equal the U.S. Defense Department budget. He was the 12th highest paid coach in the country for an 18-25 record, making about $5.5 million a year. However, he is weeks away from entering year 5 of that contract, and year 5 is unguaranteed. His buyout goes away January 15th. So you look at it, and it takes a little bit of connecting the dots, but we're less than a week away from National Signing Day. He's got a pretty mediocre class, quite frankly. But he's got no job security, because he's about to go in as a, no pun intended, well, maybe a little bit, a lame duck coach. As he crosses into 2022. So we being the local media, assumed he would get a contract extension, probably somewhere after the USC game, after, thumping the crosstown rival and putting up more points on them than any coach in UCLA history. Where is it? That was 3 weeks ago. The administration is silent. We have asked Chip Kelly on multiple occasions, what do you think? Where's your contract? Where's the extension? And he gives an answer that lacks credibility. He said, I have no idea. I have an agent. I don't worry about those things. That's what my agent does. Man, come on. You're about to go into no man's land with your contract, and you want us to believe you have no clue what's going on with it? I don't expect you to be negotiating in the media, but I expect something along the lines of, yeah, we're working on it. There's conversation going back and forth. I hope to get something done. So, no, none of that. None of it. Just, that's what I have an agent for. He does everything. And I sign where I need to sign. So it's a really strange situation. If you would ask me a week ago, I would have said, nah, come on, there's no way he goes back up to Oregon. But now another week has gone by and still no contract extension. I know there's a lot to do. I know these things can be complicated. Martin Jarman, the athletic director, was in Las Vegas last night at a black tie dinner for the new Hall of Fame inductees for the College Football Hall of Fame. So I know he's just a phone call away, but it feels like nobody's working very hard on this. And I may be wrong. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but I'm lacking a sense of urgency on this, which tells me maybe we're getting closer to him going back to Oregon.
Tony Siracusa, last word on college football. Join him, the rest of the crew over there, last word on college football. They have been so good to us here at the Voice of College Football. Check out their work as we prepare for the college football playoffs, bowl season, and National Signing Day is a week away.
Hey, I got to give a plug on the bowl season. Kevin McGuffey, who I know you have on here routinely. We love K-Mac. And every week from about week 7 forward through the rest of the season does bowl projections. And I got to throw in a plug for K-Mac because according to my math, and I'm not good at math, but according to my math, his final projections before the announcements, he was at 94%. So props to K-Mac. The man puts the effort in and gets it done. He doesn't just cover Kentucky. He was following all the bowl possibilities for well over 7 or 8 weeks. And according to my math, man, he nailed it.
94%. That's
right?
Insane.
Yeah, I didn't get 94% on any test ever in my life. So I got to give props up to K-Mac.
He's going to become the bracketologist of the bowl season.
Right? He should.
That's impressive.
At least for now, he's still our bracketologist. I don't want to give him over to anybody else.
Well, Tony, I will say, in looking at the quick scan I've done across the nation of coaches that have come back to a school. So Bill Snyder, of course, built Kansas State. And if you're going to define building a program, look to see what he did at Kansas State. He would be the classic example. He went back after being gone for a few seasons and wasn't able to quite recapture the same level of success. They were still a good team that went to bowl games each year. John Robinson at USC, of course, had a tremendous run at USC, came back after his stint with the Rams, not quite as successful, still won a Rose Bowl, still a good record. It seems like a difficult ask to kind of recapture that glory the second time around.
I think it is in general, and it is particularly, I'm going to say, with Oregon because of what Chip Kelly did when he was up there the first time. This wasn't just winning football games. This went a large way to reinventing the way college football was played, with 3 receivers and a split out running back, and everybody is in the play on. He ran the ball a lot more than people remembered. Wasn't chucking it downfield, but he was spreading the defenses like crazy by putting multiple players in motion and moving linebackers and the safeties around, and then when everyone gets set, you put someone else in motion. But the game has changed. The defenses have caught up to that. And so you can't go back and do what you did. You got to go back with something else. What is that something else? Is it what he's done at UCLA for the last 4 years, but maybe he's got more talent up there? Man, that's tough to say, because this UCLA team that is a moderately acceptable 8-4, his 4 years was built for this year. For the previous 3 years, we heard about how young the team was and all the transfers and all the new players, and everything was built towards this season when you returned 20 starters and you had one of the most veteran teams in the country, and you got to 8-4. And like you said earlier, look, no one's going to sneeze at 8-4. However, you beat nobody with a winning record. As a matter of fact, the winning percentage for all the teams you beat throughout the season is 34%. So, you lost to every team you played with a winning record. They beat you. So again, maybe that's just, hey, it's UCLA and I did what I did with what I had, but these were his players. These were his guys. This was his team. This was his system. So I don't know. Can you possibly say, well, if I do it up at Oregon, it'll be different? Yeah, look, I don't know. I know, obviously, Phil Knight, Uncle Phil is going to throw whatever money he needs to throw at any situation. They've already actually approved the financing, with his backing, of course, of a new practice facility, state-of-the-art practice facility. Oregon's already got some of the best facilities in the entire country, and they're going to build a new one. They haven't had a new practice facility in like 10 years, and they're building a new one that'll be finished in 2 years. Phil Knight is going to go a long way in determining what happens, because he is the financier for the school. It's like going to see the Dawn. You got to get your money, and you got to get a sign off from the Dawn. I expect him in some capacity to have the school reach out to big names, and I mean bigger than Chip, and with more recent success than Chip. I go back to what he did with the basketball program when they had an opening, and that horrifically ugly basketball court, was named after his son. But when they had a basketball opening, he actually called Mike Krzyzewski. He called Coach K to try and talk him into going to Oregon. And he called Tom Izzo, and obviously got nowhere with either of them. And he settled in on Dana Altman, and Altman's a good coach, and he's done fine at Oregon. I can see that kind of scenario playing out this time, but it's got to happen quicker, because he's going to have an interim coach, for the bowl game, for the Alamo Bowl. Apparently no one liked my idea. Since Bob Stoops is going to go coach Oklahoma for the bowl game, they should bring back Mike Bellotti to coach Oregon, and throw it back a couple decades, and see where the game goes. But they're going to have an interim, for the Alamo Bowl. That buys them a few weeks to get this done. Really not much longer than that. You can't go into mid-January in the second signing period with no new coach.
Two other aspects to this that you'll be able to give context to is that I think most people would just make the assumption that Chip Kelly, with the enormous success he had at Oregon, just had these over the top 5 recruiting classes, because he was producing top 5 teams in the country. And of course, our conversations when he took the job at UCLA, and I did my review of the UCLA roster and the recruiting classes that Jim Mora brought in that stocked the Kelly roster versus what he did at Oregon, it was almost a mirror image of each other. If you believe in the recruiting rankings, which I do to a large extent. It's not everything.
So do I.
So that's first and foremost. Basically, they had top 15 talent at both places. Secondly, I don't know what his identity as a head coach is anymore. Like you alluded to, it's not like tuning in 10 years ago to an Oregon football game and saying, wow, this is new, this is fresh, this is just different, and it's innovative. If you watch a UCLA football game and watch him play offense, it's like watching any other game across America. I don't know what his calling card is today.
Boy, you know what? I think that's a great point. I think you really nailed it. I cover the team, and I don't know what it is. No, it's, we joke that the most consistent thing about them is their inconsistency. But that's really not very funny if you're a donor pumping all that money into the program. And so I don't know what the identity of this program is right now. Look, they went 8-4 with this extremely veteran team. They're going to lose at least 20 players. They've had another 8 that have bailed out into the transfer portal, guys who weren't getting a shot. It doesn't really hurt you in terms of, oh, this was the next guy up, but it does hurt you in terms of depth, because you're starting over next year. Next year is a rebuild, because you're going to lose 20 plus players off this year's roster. You do not have an exciting schedule next year that is going to be the buzz of the local fans. You're playing Bowling Green, Alabama State, and South Alabama all at home. Now, UCLA being who they are, with the progressive identity that they've had for 70 years, I'm great with them playing an HBCU school like Alabama State. That's terrific. But then you got to buy your way out of one of the other two games and bring in someone big. I know Michigan canceled a home and home series, which is a little bit why they're in the situation they're in, but that was 2 years ago. You gotta buy your way out of Bowling Green or South Alabama and replace it with somebody bigger, because now, sure, look, you're going to start the season 3-0, presumably, and then you only have to win what, 3-4 conference games out of your 9 to be bowl eligible again. And does he get another extension after that if he's still here? Or, as someone else brought up, is this the time you make a change because next year is moderately infallible because of your out of conference schedule? Now's the time to bring in somebody else and start fresh and let them put their own stamp on it. It's a tough call. I've been going through the last month assuming Chip was going to be back. And the longer he's not, the more I see there's some real issues here. Look, part of it may be, when you and I have talked about this, Jerry Azzinaro, with one of the worst defenses in the country every year for the last 4 years. What happens to him? I'm not big on an athletic director telling a head coach, you have to make changes on your staff, or we're not giving you the extension or the new contract or whatever. If you can't trust him to make his own hiring and firing decisions, how can you trust him to be head coach? But there's got to be something done with Azzinaro. You can't just keep repeating the same thing year after year after year. Azzinaro is eligible for retirement in the University of California system in February when his contract is up, eligible for a pension through the UC system. Maybe that's part of what's happening. Got to deal with what we're going to do with Azzinaro before we get you your new contract. But again, get it done then. What's the holdup? Because right now, Chip's incoming recruiting class, he can sign up to 32 players this year. He's got 14 commits. And yeah, he's going to use the transfer portal. Every coach does. But you're not going to tell me he's going to get 18 guys through the transfer portal. That's insanity. It's a very average class. It's going to be ranked low 30s, which is pretty much where he's been his entire time at UCLA. You brought up the Mora recruits. Chip Kelly's best class was the one that he closed Jim Mora, with his recruits. It was that first class. I think it was around 17th or 18th in the country. They were mostly Mora's guys who, when Kelly got hired in late November, he went and sealed the deal with them. But they were mostly Mora's recruits.
Tony Siracusa, last word on college football. Please like the video, share the videos out on social media, and subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football, and track Tony's work at Last Word on College Football. And we will continue to follow it because we know that Oregon needs a coach. And now we know from Tony's information that Chip Kelly will soon not have a contract at UCLA unless something is signed here soon.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Always glad to do it, Mark.